So it's great to be able to join Alex and the team today from the south as an Edinburgh-based member of the Landmark Information Group senior team. Seeing the attendee list today brought back some memories for me as I actually started my career as an apprentice civil engineering draftsman with Fairhurst, which is where that comes in, before going on to take a civil engineering degree. So I have got some connectivity with some of the people in the room on some of the things people do. I now wear two hats though, as Alex talked about. So essentially I'm MD of a business called Miller & Bryce, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, but it's a long established legal search business based in Leith. But more recently I've become Director of Landmark Scotland, and that's what I'm going to cover in this short talk today. So Landmark Scotland really started with a simple question during lockdown and immediately post-lockdown. How can we better serve the needs of the Scottish market in land and property with products and services that exist or were coming from the Landmark Group stable? So from a Scottish perspective, apart from Miller & Bryce, which is 100% focused inside Scotland, the other business units, and I'll come on to some of those in a minute, had varying degrees of market knowledge. I've been in Miller & Bryce Landmark 6 years, and I was pretty horrified by the lack of market knowledge about Scotland in some cases. And they were really either trying to push products or services designed really for the England and Wales markets into Scotland without really giving it too much more consideration. In some cases, and I think the Geodata business that Alex runs is a good example of that, products and services for the land and property sector in Scotland are reasonably generic. So there's little need for tailoring or adaptation of those products so they work. They work pretty well for environmental consultants, for estate agents, for land agents, architects, etc. But clearly there are different local drivers in Scotland that influence and dictate market needs. Basically on the right-hand side here, as you can see, many areas that we have to interact with as Landmark are devolved in Scotland to the Scottish Government. Housing, transport, taxation, environment, planning. Really, Westminster has very little to do with that. So lobbying Westminster or watching them doesn't really matter. We've also got a different legal system and transaction process, given we're dealing with property and land. Actually, it's better and faster than in England and Wales. I always like to say that when my English colleagues are here.
Yeah, we know.
But as a practical example of that, for Landmark, the lack of Law Society of Scotland practice notes on areas such as flooding, environment or climate change means these are not routinely considered in residential property transactions in Scotland. You only need to look at the weather over the last few days. I would want more diligence about buying a property in Scotland than I get. The relative lack of maturity of the land register versus England, which Paul's just spoken about, with many properties and land still on the SACEN deeds-based register, adds further complexity in some transactions. We've got a different set of mortgage finance rules from UK Finance. And if you broaden this out, if you think about SEPA as an environmental regulator, historically much less open with information than the Environment Agency in England, we can start to see divergence in some areas that should really impact on product design for what Landmark brings to Scotland. So overall, the overall objective of Landmark Scotland is about building market intelligence, feedback process, which can help inform Landmark product, service design, marketing, make sure that we ensure as far as possible that we've got products which meet the needs of the local requirements in Scotland. We don't just shoehorn in what's been designed for England and Wales. So, given its origins, history and relative market sizes, it's maybe not surprising that across the property transaction process, here we're looking at a kind of residential flow, but as Alex said, Landmark's really working with commercial and land development and transactions as well. There really are Landmark products, services and solutions to support most professionals participating in the journey in England and Wales. The purpose of some of those Landmark business units is pretty obvious from their name. Landmark Estate Agency Services, providing compliance and other solutions for estate agents. Geodata, as Alex has said, providing geospatial data, mapping solutions, and it's well known to this audience. Ones you won't know though, Optimus, it's a panel management business offering outsourced survey, conveyancing and other services to brokers and lenders. Landmark Legal houses the environmental reports business of Landmark and is increasingly becoming an authority on ESG and climate change. Searchflow and OSD in the middle block there are legal search businesses like Miller & Bryce, but only serving the England and Wales market. Okersoft is a conveyancing and private client workflow case management solution, and Decision First is a secure funds exchange solution between lenders and conveyancers. And finally, Landmark Valuation Services, which has operated the Quest secure panel network services for surveyors, has panelled out surveys for a number of years, and that's got a significant UK-wide market share and is also now providing climate information to lenders. But given that many of these services have been designed bottom up to fit England and Wales market practice and protocols, it's maybe not a surprise that some of them haven't always translated seamlessly into the Scottish market. So this is my take on it. This isn't a Landmark-wide approved slide. It's something I knocked up for this conference, so I don't want anyone else in the audience to disagree with this. But basically, if I look at the landscape as it stands for Landmark in Scotland today, it does look something like this. We've got mature business streams, I would call them. In Miller & Bryce's case, it's very mature. It's been around for 148 years. So it's been serving the legal sector for a long time. And they basically provide products and services which are dedicated to or work fairly effectively already in Scotland. Not that that's to say we couldn't do or be pushing for better market share or higher volumes in some cases. So where Landmark Scotland's come in is really beginning to corral some of these other sort of businesses and business products which are slightly lower down this chart. It's really starting to see how we can enable cross-selling into other parts of the transaction chain. And as we'll see in a minute on my final slide, our initial focus has been on a cluster of compliance and onboarding activities that are needed on listing residential property in Scotland. So that's really in this sort of middle left-hand box here. And we're keen to continue that journey, but also to look at other things. I talked earlier about flooding. It's a real passion for me, and I know one of our other business unit MDs who looks after this area of climate change and ESG. We're really keen to bring these products and try and embed them into the Scottish process because we are negligent up here. I mean, it's crazy that the diligence afforded to the buyer of an identical wimpy-built house in Wigan is getting so much less diligence than you get in Wishaw. I think that's really hard. And of course, at the bottom tier, products and solutions which we've not even begun to scratch the surface of how we bring those into Scotland. So there's a lot of work to do in adapting those. So I mentioned that what have we been doing since, as Alex said, we started this journey, and we basically got going following our initial work in spring 2022. And that focus around this cluster of estate agent services has really been around a product called Landmark Agent, and we've created a Scottish adapted version of that. It's an award-winning portal which allows estate agents basically to complete initial ownership and anti-money laundering checks from one place, which gives a secure, auditable trail to evidence that to the regulator, which in this case is HMRC. This has been really successful in England and Wales, and whilst the AML, anti-money laundering part of the solution, dropped almost seamlessly into Scotland, for some of the reasons Paul spoke about, the title checking part didn't, because in England you can just hit a button, HM Land Registry, you check the ownership of something. In Scotland, if you're sitting on the front desk in a typical estate agent and you're pretty junior and you're being asked to do this job, if that property turns out not to be on the land register, you've got a real challenge working out, am I actually making sure that I'm checking who the owners of this property are? So we developed some process through Miller & Bryce, given that's what it does, which means that estate agency owner can sleep easily at night, because you can ensure that it's a consistent solution for all of these properties that come onto the market. So as you can see from the top right, we've made really good progress since starting in spring 2022. Just to put that in perspective, 8,000 transactions going through Landmark Agent, that's about 8% of the whole Scottish market. We register about 100,000 properties a year roughly, but you can actually strip new builds out of that because that doesn't apply. You can strip out some other areas where we can't quite touch at the moment. So actually in terms of the addressable market, we've made a really good start with this. And the great thing about having that portal now is we can begin to start to offer other things. So in Landmark Agent, we can offer a floor planning service through a product called Metropix, which Landmark offers. And we're beginning now to move along that chain and offer conveyancing referrals. So you come in to sell your house, you've been audited and checked there. Would you like somebody to help you with your conveyancing? Yes, we can offer you a solution for that. And I think another major adaptation, which is the first big one again for Scotland that's coming, is we're going to be offering home reports through this. So obviously Geodata deals with some surveyors in Scotland and with some estate agents. Basically we'll be offering home reports made available through this service as well, which will obviously need to be done up front in a Scottish property transaction. So thank you for taking time to listen to this short overview. And please, if you're using a Landmark product or service that seems out of step with the needs of the Scottish market, please let us know, because we just want to hear that stuff and we want to feed that into our future product designs. So thank you.